The colony world of Vera 9 was small compared to the great planets of the galaxy. It had no rare metals, no ancient ruins, and no grand cities. Its value was simple: fertile soil, clear water, and a sky bright with twin suns. For the settlers who lived there, it was home, fragile but full of hope. Families had crossed the stars to start fresh lives, planting crops where there had once been only dust and wind, but the universe rarely allowed peace to last. From the edge of the system came a shadow, ships that belonged to raiders. They were not builders, not dreamers, and not protectors. They were predators. Vera 9 was far from strong defenses, far from the watch of larger empires. To the raiders, it was the perfect target. The colonists tried to resist. They had a small militia, a few defense turrets, and courage born of desperation. Yet courage alone could not match the firepower of warships. The raiders broke through the first line of defenses as easily as a hammer breaks glass. That night, in the control room of the colony's central station, Governor Elira stood before the comm panel. Her face was pale, her hands shaking slightly. Around her, officers and technicians worked frantically, sending warnings, locking down shelters, and checking dwindling power reserves. "We must send the signal," Elira said. One of the technicians hesitated. "Governor, if we transmit, the raiders will detect it. They'll know we are asking for help." "They already know," Elira replied. Her voice steadied as she spoke. "If we do nothing, we will fall. If we send the signal, there is at least a chance." The technician nodded and began the sequence. The distress message was short, simple, and desperate. "This is Vera 9 under attack. Civilians in danger. Immediate assistance required." The signal left the colony, climbing through atmosphere and sky, racing into the cold void of space. It was repeated every few minutes, a small pulse of hope moving across the stars. Days passed. The colonists hid in underground shelters, listening as the raiders prowled the skies. They could hear the distant thunder of bombardments. Entire farms were destroyed, supply depots reduced to ash. Children cried in the darkness. Some adults whispered that no one would come. After all, Vera 9 was not rich or powerful. Why would any empire waste ships to save a handful of settlers? In truth, the distress call did reach others. Signals were picked up by nearby traders, passing fleets, and even an embassy relay. Messages passed from system to system until the plight of Vera 9 became known. But one by one, the governments turned away. The Vaith coalition dismissed the request as too far outside their borders. The Drenari Assembly argued that sending ships would cost more than the colony was worth. The Thrin hierarchy simply ignored the message. To them, Vera 9 was just one more fragile outpost, and so the signal continued, fading, echoing, waiting. It should have died there, but it did not, because one day it reached Earth, on a listening station orbiting Mars. A young operator named Kieran watched his console beep with the incoming signal. He leaned closer, reading the words that scrolled across his display. His eyes widened. "Governor Elira of Vera 9, he whispered. "They're still alive," he reported to his superior officer. Soon the signal traveled again, this time through Earth's vast defense network. Generals, admirals, and council members all read the same desperate words. To other species, an SOS might have been a request. To humanity, it was something deeper. Across centuries of hardship, humans had built a culture that never ignored a cry for help. From ancient lifeboats on stormy seas to starships in the void, the meaning was the same. If someone calls for aid, you answer. Within hours, Earth's council gathered. Admiral Reyes, a veteran with gray streaks in his hair, stood at the center. His eyes scanned the chamber. "You've all read the transmission," he said. "Vera 9 is under siege. Raiders will not stop until the colony is ashes." Some counselors asked practical questions. What resources do we gain from defending them? What if it is a trap? Do we risk war for a distant outpost? Reyes listened, then gave a simple reply. If we ignore them, we are no better than the raiders. Humanity does not abandon its own. And if we are the only ones who will act, then we will act. Silence filled the chamber. Then one by one, the counselors nodded. The decision was made. Orders were sent. Fleets awakened. Ships that had been resting in hangars powered their reactors. Soldiers prepared. Engineers checked weapons and shields. The call had been answered. Back on Vera 9, the situation grew worse. Supplies dwindled. Some colonists had already been captured by raiders. Governor Elira tried to keep hope alive, but even she felt the weight of despair. Each day, she looked at the stars and wondered if anyone had heard. Then one night she stood on the observation deck of the central station. The sky was quiet. The only light came from the shattered remains of satellites still burning in low orbit. "Perhaps no one will come," she whispered. But deep inside, a voice answered her doubt. Earth will not abandon us, and somewhere far across the galaxy engines roared to life. A fleet of human ships was on its way, carrying with it the promise that an SOS to Earth is never answered lightly. The colonists of Vera 9 did not yet know it. The raiders did not fear it. The galaxy did not believe it, but they would. Very soon they would. For weeks the people of Vera 9 had lived in fear. The raiders came day after day, circling like wolves around a wounded prey. They had not yet destroyed the colony completely, but they struck often enough to remind everyone who held the power. The shelters were overcrowded. Families huddled together, waiting for the next bombardment. Children asked questions the adults could not answer. Why has no one come? When will it end? Governor Elira tried to keep their hope alive. She gave speeches, reminded them to endure, and promised that their message had reached someone. But in her heart she worried. Each day that passed made it less likely that help would arrive in time. The raiders, meanwhile, grew bold. Their leader, a scarred alien called Vorak, sent out a broadcast to the colony. His face filled every screen. His voice was cold, heavy with arrogance. "You have no allies. You are forgotten. Surrender and I will spare some of you. Resist and all of you will fall." His words were like poison. Some colonists argued they should accept. Others insisted they fight to the end. Division grew inside the shelters, and then everything changed. Far across the system, space rippled. Bright lines stretched across the darkness, and out of the folds of faster-than-light travel came ships, dozens of them, cutting into reality like blades. They were Terran ships carrying the banner of Earth. At the front of the fleet was the battleship Resolute, its hull marked by scars from older battles. Inside its command deck stood Admiral Reyes. His eyes were fixed on the holographic map of the system. Green icons marked the human fleet. Red icons marked the raider ships. Vera 9 glowed faintly at the center, small and fragile. "Admiral," said his first officer, "we have confirmation. The colony is still holding. But they won't last much longer." Reyes gave a short nod. "Then we move now." No hesitation. Orders flashed through the fleet. Engines roared. Shields hummed. The humans advanced. On Vera 9, the colonists first noticed strange lights in the night sky. At first, many thought it was another attack. Fear swept through the shelters. But Governor Elira, standing on the observation deck, looked closer. The lights were different. They were not the blood-red fire of raider cannons. They were steady, sharp, disciplined. And they were many. Her heart skipped a beat. "They came," she whispered. The word spread quickly. "Ships in orbit!" Human ships? Hope returned like fire after a long winter. Parents held their children close and smiled through tears. For the first time in weeks, the colonists believed they might live. The raiders noticed as well. Vorak's bridge crew shouted warnings as their sensors lit up. "New contacts. Multiple warships, Terran design." Vorak snarled. Impossible. No empire would waste ships on such a worthless rock. But as the hologram filled with green Terran signals, his anger turned to unease. The humans had not sent a token force. They had sent a fleet prepared for war. "Ready weapons," Vorak ordered. "If they want to fight for these settlers, we will show them the price." The first clash began high above the colony. Raider frigates moved in fast, trying to overwhelm the humans with speed and numbers. But the Terrans fought differently. Their ships did not scatter in panic. They moved with precision, covering each other, protecting their flanks. Where the raiders struck recklessly, the humans struck with patience, turning the void into a trap. The cruiser Iron Dawn led the first counterattack. Its cannons lit up the dark, shredding the lead raider ship in a single burst. Fragments spun into the void. The rest of the raiders wavered. On the Resolute, Admiral Reyes watched calmly. "Steady," he ordered. "Do not chase. Let them come to us." The raiders did exactly that, charging in fury only to be broken again and again. Each time the humans adapted. Each time they turned the enemy's strength into weakness. Down on Vera 9, the colonists watched the battle from safe shelters and command screens. Cheers broke out when the first raider ship exploded. Children clapped their hands. Adults cried openly. "They came," whispered one farmer. "Earth really came." Governor Elira stood tall. Her voice carried through the comms. "Hold strong, people of Vera 9, the Deathworlders fight for us now." The word Deathworlders spread like lightning. Many species in the galaxy used it as a warning. Humans came from a harsh planet filled with storms, predators, and endless challenges. But tonight the colonists spoke the word with pride. The raiders did not retreat easily. Vorak himself led his heavy cruiser into the battle, its weapons blazing. He aimed straight for the Resolute. "Target their flagship," Vorak barked. "Cut off the head and the body dies." Missiles streaked across space. Explosions shook the Resolute. For a moment it seemed the raiders might break through, but Admiral Reyes stood firm. "Damage report?" "Shields holding," came the reply. "Good, then return fire." The Resolute unleashed its full broadside. The stars lit up like dawn. Vorak's cruiser staggered, its shields failing. For the first time, the raider leader looked afraid. The battle raged for hours. Human ships took damage but held their lines. Raider ships fell one after another, broken by discipline and sheer determination. The colonists below could see flashes of fire in the night sky, each one a reminder that their rescuers refused to surrender. At last, the raiders began to break. One ship fled, then another. Soon the scattered survivors were running, engines flaring as they retreated into the dark. Vorak's crippled cruiser limped away, smoke trailing from its hull. His voice, once so confident, now hissed with rage. "This is not over," he promised. But even he knew his defeat was complete. Silence returned to the skies above Vera 9. Wreckage drifted in orbit, glowing faintly. Human ships moved carefully, securing the area. Rescue shuttles launched, bringing supplies and medics to the surface. When the first shuttle landed, Governor Elira was there to greet it. The hatch opened and out stepped Terran Marines in armor marked with the symbol of Earth. Behind them came officers, engineers, and doctors. Elira's voice trembled. "You came." The lead Marine removed his helmet. His face was tired, scarred, but his smile was steady. "Of course we came," he said. "You called." Humanity answers. Tears filled Elira's eyes. For the first time in many nights, she felt the weight on her shoulders lift. The colony was not alone. High above, aboard the Resolute, Admiral Reyes stood at the viewing window. He watched the planet below, peaceful once more. "An SOS to Earth," he murmured, "is never answered lightly." The words carried through his crew. They all knew it was not just a mission. It was a promise. Humanity had once again shown the galaxy that they would fight, not for power or wealth, but because it was right. And as the colonists of Vera 9 celebrated their survival, the legend of the Deathworlders grew stronger. The raiders had thought them weak. The galaxy had doubted their resolve. But now everyone would remember, when humans arrive, they do not abandon hope, they bring it. The battle for Vera 9 was not yet finished. Though the Terran fleet had pushed the raiders back, the danger was far from gone. The wreckage of enemy ships still drifted in orbit, and sensors showed that more raider vessels were gathering at the edge of the system. They had not accepted defeat. They were regrouping, preparing to strike again with even greater fury. Inside the underground shelters of Vera 9, colonists tried to rest. But every rumble from above made them jump. They knew the fight would return. Fear still lived in their hearts, but so did something new, hope. For the first time in weeks, they were not alone. Governor Elira stood in the command center with her advisors. The air was tense, filled with static from damaged comms. A large screen showed the sky above the colony, where Terran ships patrolled like watchful guardians. "Admiral Reyes promises protection," Elira said firmly. "We must trust them, but we must also prepare. The raiders will not give up easily." Her words steadied those around her. They knew she was right. Above the planet, on the Terran battleship Resolute, Admiral Reyes studied the tactical map. His fleet was spread in defensive formation, guarding the planet below. Green icons marked his ships. Red blips flickered at the system's edge, the gathering storm. "They are coming back," his first officer reported. Reyes nodded. "Of course they are. Raiders live by fear. If they run once, they must return stronger or they lose everything. This time, they will throw everything at us." He turned to his officers. "Prepare all squadrons. Set secondary shields to colony coverage. If the raiders break through, they will aim for the settlers. We will not allow it." The crew responded with crisp affirmations. Everyone aboard the Resolute understood the stakes. The raider leader, Vorak, paced angrily across the bridge of his damaged cruiser. The scars of the first battle still marked his ship, but reinforcements had answered his call. Dozens of raider vessels now surrounded him, fast attack craft, heavy frigates, and even a massive carrier stolen from an older empire. His second-in-command asked, "The humans fight harder than expected. Should we withdraw?" Vorak's eyes narrowed. "Withdraw? And admit weakness? Never. If word spreads that humans defeated us here, no one will fear us again. We will crush them, burn their fleet, and leave nothing of this colony. Then the galaxy will remember Vorak's name." He raised his clawed hand. "Signal the fleet. We strike now. No mercy." The battle began with sudden violence. From the far side of the system, the raiders surged forward like a black tide. Their engines burned bright as they hurled themselves at the Terran fleet. Dozens of small ships darted ahead, firing missiles in chaotic patterns. Behind them, heavy cruisers advanced slowly, cannons glowing with energy. On the Resolute, alarms echoed. Multiple contacts inbound. Shields holding, adjusting to intercept. Admiral Reyes stood tall. His voice was calm, steady, unshaken. "All ships hold formation. Do not scatter. Let them break upon us." And so the humans waited, shields raised, weapons ready. The first wave of raider missiles streaked through the void. Some struck Terran shields, exploding in bursts of light. Others were intercepted mid-flight by point defense guns. The Terran fleet absorbed the storm, lines holding firm. Then, when the raiders drew close enough, Reyes gave the order. "Return fire." The void lit up. Beams of energy and kinetic rounds tore into the raider vanguard. One ship disintegrated instantly. Another spun helplessly as fire consumed its hull. Yet more kept charging, wild and reckless, trying to break the disciplined wall of human ships. It was chaos. Explosions flared across the sky, painting the night above Vera 9 with fire. Colonists watching from the surface saw the heavens themselves blaze. Children clutched their parents, whispering in awe, "The humans are fighting for us." But the raiders were cunning. As the main assault raged, smaller ships slipped around the battle lines. Their target was clear, the planet itself. In the colony shelters, alarms blared. Governor Alira's heart froze as the warning came. "Incoming vessels!" "They're heading for the surface." Her advisors panicked, but she stood firm. "Signal the fleet. Tell them we need cover, now." The Resolute received the call. Reyes acted instantly. "Deploy the interceptor wing," he ordered. From the hangar bays of Terran carriers, squadrons of starfighters launched. Sleek and deadly, they streaked toward the raiders diving for the colony. The two forces met in the upper atmosphere, weaving and rolling through trails of fire. A young pilot, Lieutenant Aaron, locked onto a raider craft. His voice was tight with focus. Target acquired, firing. His missile struck true, tearing the raider apart. He pulled up just in time to avoid debris. Another wave incoming. His wingmate shouted. The sky above Vera 9 became a storm of fire. Trails of smoke crisscrossed the heavens as human pilots fought desperately to stop the raiders from reaching the ground. The colonists below watched in awe as the night turned into a battlefield of light. Some raiders broke through, landing near remote outposts. Colonists there braced for the worst. But before the raiders could unleash destruction, dropships roared down. Terran Marines inside, armored and ready. The Marines hit the ground running, forming defensive lines around settlers. Their leader shouted, "Stand fast! You are under Terran protection now." The raiders fought savagely, but they were not prepared for humans on the ground. Deathworld training had shaped the Marines into fighters who thrived in chaos. They used the terrain, adapted quickly, and refused to retreat. Slowly, step by step, they pushed the raiders back. To the colonists, it was like watching legends come alive. In orbit, the larger ships still clashed. Vorak's massive carrier unleashed swarms of drones, overwhelming in number. For a moment it seemed the Terran lines might collapse, but Admiral Reyes had expected this. "Bring forward the Hammer of Dawn," he ordered. From behind the fleet, a Terran dreadnought moved into position. Its main cannon charged, humming with power. With a single shot, it unleashed a beam of energy so bright it blinded sensors. The beam struck Vorak's carrier, slicing through shields and armor alike. The giant vessel cracked apart, explosions blooming across its length. Cheers erupted aboard every Terran ship. The tide had turned. Vorak raged on his damaged cruiser, watching his fleet crumble. His pride would not allow retreat, but his crew looked at him with fear. They had seen what humans could do. One by one, the remaining raider ships began to scatter, engines flaring as they fled into the void. Forek's own ship limped after them, trailing smoke. His final words before the jump were filled with bitter hatred. "This is not the end. I will return," and then he was gone. Silence fell once more. The stars above Vera 9 glowed faintly, their light mingling with the drifting wreckage of battle. The Terran fleet held position, victorious but scarred. Dozens of ships had taken damage. Many fighters would never return. Yet they had endured. On the surface, colonists poured out of shelters, cheering as the skies cleared. For the first time since the invasion began, the air was filled not with fear but with joy. Governor Alira addressed them with pride. "Look to the sky, people of Vera 9. Look at the fire in the heavens. That fire is our shield, carried by those who answered our call. Humanity has stood for us, and because of them, we still stand." The crowd erupted in cheers. The children of Vera 9 would never forget the sight of that night. The fire in the sky when the Death Worlders came to save them. Aboard the Resolute, Admiral Reyes looked at the stars. His voice was quiet but resolute. "Let the galaxy watch," he said. "Let them remember this day. An SOS to Earth is never ignored, and those who test us will see the fire we bring." The word spread among his crew, becoming more than just orders. They became a promise the entire galaxy would soon understand. The battle above Vera 9 had ended, but its echoes lingered everywhere. Smoke and fire from destroyed raider ships drifted in orbit, marking the sky like scars. Below, the colonists emerged from shelters, blinking at the sunlight that filtered through clouds. For weeks, fear had ruled their lives. Now, hope began to take its place. Governor Alira walked through the main settlement. Children ran alongside her, their laughter a rare sound in the silence left by destruction. Adults worked tirelessly to repair what they could: homes, farms, water pumps, and power lines. Supplies dropped by the Terran fleet were being distributed. Each crate was a reminder that someone had heard their cries. But Alira knew the victory was more than just survival. It was a lesson for everyone who doubted humanity. Above the planet, the Terran fleet lingered, patrolling the skies with steady discipline. On board the Resolute, Admiral Reyes walked along the deck, watching the colony below through thick glass. He had seen many worlds under siege, many desperate cries for help. Yet Vera 9 held a special weight. The galaxy had learned to underestimate humans, and the Terran fleet had just proved why that was a mistake. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Aaron, approaching him cautiously, "the colonists are repairing quickly. They're resilient even after what they've been through." Reyes nodded. "Yes, that is the essence of humanity. Resilience. The ability to endure, adapt, and rise even when all seems lost." Aaron tilted his head. "You mean it's more than just our fleet?" "It always has been," Reyes said. "Humans do not rely on machines or numbers alone. We rely on willpower, creativity, and unity. That is our true weapon. The galaxy often forgets it, but Vera 9 will not." Meanwhile, the colonists began to gather in the main square. Children waved at Terran pilots flying low in their starfighters. Farmers brought crops and shared them with the Marines. Engineers from Earth worked alongside locals to repair damaged systems. It was a moment of cultural exchange, simple yet profound. Governor Alira addressed them once more. Her voice was firm but full of warmth. "You have seen it with your own eyes," she said. "The humans who saved us do not fight for gold nor for power. They fight because it is right, because they keep their promises. That is the strength of their world, Earth. A world that has survived storms, wars, and challenges far greater than we can imagine." Her words were met with silence, as if the colonists were absorbing the weight of her meaning. Then applause rose, hesitant at first, then growing stronger. People began to cheer, not just for survival, but for the example of humanity itself. At night, around the shelters, elders told stories to the younger generation. They spoke of the Death Worlders, humans from a planet of harsh conditions who came not for reward but for duty. "They come from Earth," one elder explained, voice low and reverent. "A planet that has known famine, war, sickness, and disaster. Yet it survived. Every human carries the history of survival in their bones. That is why they could face the raiders, why they could bring hope when no one else would." Children listened wide-eyed. Some asked questions. "Why are humans so strong?" "Because they must be," the elder replied. To survive Earth, to survive themselves, and to survive the universe. And now they fight for us. Remember that strength. It is not just in their weapons, but in their hearts. Far from Vera 9, in distant sectors of the galaxy, word of the Terran fleet's actions spread quickly. Traders, scouts, and diplomats carried the news. In every message, a single truth grew clearer. Humans do not ignore those in need. Some factions that had previously dismissed Vera 9 as worthless reconsidered. Others, who had mocked humanity, whispered warnings to their leaders. Across the void, a new understanding emerged. Earth and its people were not a weak power to be tested lightly. They were guardians of their promises, and their strength went beyond fleets and weapons. The galaxy began to see what humans had always known about themselves. Their will could endure anything. Their spirit could adapt, and their determination could turn despair into hope. Back on Vera 9, Governor Illyra met with a group of Terran officers. They spoke quietly, reviewing reports of raider activity and planning further protection for the colony. Admiral Reyes wants the colony to be self-sufficient, one officer said. He wants to teach you the techniques we use on death worlds, how to survive harsh conditions, adapt quickly, and resist attacks. Illyra nodded. It will take time, but we are willing to learn. Our people must be strong, not just for ourselves, but for anyone who might come after us. The officer smiled. You have the will. That is already more than half the battle. It was a lesson they would remember. Humans had survived for centuries, not by avoiding danger, but by confronting it, adapting to it, and rising stronger. The colonists of Vera 9 were about to learn what it truly meant to embrace that legacy. In the quiet moments between battle and repair, Admiral Reyes reflected on the deeper significance of their mission. His fleet had been trained for combat, yet he knew the fight was not only physical. It was moral. The galaxy often made choices based on fear or greed. Humans made theirs based on responsibility and empathy. That is what sets us apart, he said softly, speaking to no one in particular. Not the size of our ships, not the strength of our weapons, but our willingness to endure hardship, to protect others, and to honor our word. That is the true echo of Earth. Even among his crew, this philosophy resonated. Pilots, engineers, and soldiers had witnessed the colonists' despair and the raiders' cruelty. Yet they also witnessed humanity's unique response, action, courage, and unyielding resolve. Days passed. The raiders did not return, but reconnaissance missions showed they were still regrouping. The Terran fleet remained in orbit, a silent sentinel over Vera 9. Slowly, life returned to the colony. Children went to school again, markets reopened, and families planted new crops. The fires of destruction gave way to the fires of life and renewal, and all the while the colonists spoke often of the humans who had saved them. Deathworlders, they said with reverence and pride. They told stories of how human pilots navigated impossible battles, how Marines faced raiders with unbreakable courage, and how a distant civilization had answered their desperate cries without hesitation. The galaxy might forget quickly, but the people of Vera 9 would not. They had seen the true strength of humans. They had seen the echoes of Earth. At night, Governor Illyra stood on the observation deck once more. She gazed at the stars, thinking of the distant blue planet where the Deathworlders came from. They are more than warriors, she whispered. They carry the history of a world that never surrendered. They fight because it is right, because they must, and because they will not abandon those in need. That is the true power of Earth. A faint breeze brushed her face. Somewhere far away, humans continued their work in the fleet. Somewhere far away, Admiral Reyes watched over his ships. Somewhere far away, the galaxy learned, slowly but surely, that when humans acted, it was never for themselves alone. The colony would survive. The settlers would thrive. And the legend of the Deathworlders, the humans from Earth who answered cries for help across the stars, would grow, echoing through time and space. It was more than just a promise kept. It was a lesson. True strength was not in weapons alone, but in courage, resilience, and honor. And Vera 9 had witnessed it firsthand. The once fragile colony was alive again, buzzing with energy. Children ran through fields newly planted, their laughter carrying across the gentle hills. Adults repaired buildings and infrastructure, working side by side with Terran engineers and Marines. The scars of the recent battles remained, but they served as reminders of the courage that had saved the planet. Above them, the Terran fleet still patrolled the skies. The warships had been battered in the recent engagements, yet they held strong. Sensors scanned the void for returning threats, and starfighters practiced maneuvers high above the planet, a visible promise to the colonists below. Humanity's protection would not vanish. Governor Alira walked through the settlement's main square, smiling at the faces she passed. It had been weeks of fear and despair, yet now, the streets were filled with determination and hope. She paused at a fountain, where children played and Marines shared rations with families. It was a small scene, yet to her it symbolized the resilience of both her people and the humans who had saved them. "This is more than survival," she said softly to herself. "This is a beginning." On board the Resolute, Admiral Reyes stood before the bridge window looking down at the planet. The colony below was a patchwork of green fields and repaired buildings, evidence of both human and colonist effort. He felt pride, not in himself but in the unyielding spirit of humanity. "Report," he said. "All sectors are secure," his first officer replied. "No signs of raider activity in the immediate system. The fleet remains in position until long-range scans confirm they have dispersed completely." Reyes nodded. "Good. Prepare a communication for Governor Alira. Let her know we will continue to support the colony until it can stand fully on its own." His officer hesitated. "Admiral, should we leave some ships in orbit permanently?" Reyes shook his head. "No. Humans do not occupy worlds to prove power. We assist, we teach, and we leave. That is how we help others survive. The promise of Earth is not about dominance, it is about responsibility." Meanwhile, Governor Alira and her advisors received the message. Her eyes scanned the words, absorbing the reassurance. She could almost hear the echo of the Admiral's voice. "We fight for those in need. We keep our promises." She shared the message with the colonists gathered in the square. Murmurs of gratitude swept through the crowd. People looked up at the sky, imagining the humans in orbit, their presence a shield against further harm. One young boy asked, "Will they stay forever?" Alira smiled and shook her head. "No, they will not stay. But they will always answer when we call. That is what makes them different. That is what makes them strong." It was a lesson the people of Vera 9 would carry for generations. In the following weeks, the Terran fleet trained the colonists in defensive strategies and survival techniques. Engineers taught how to reinforce structures. Farmers learned ways to protect crops from potential hazards, and security teams instructed on tactical thinking. Every session emphasized adaptability, resourcefulness, and resilience, the hallmarks of humanity. During one training exercise, a young colonist named Jaren asked a Terran soldier, "Why do humans help us? You don't even know us." The soldier, a veteran with lines of experience etched into his face, knelt to meet the boy's eyes. "Because it is who we are. Humans answer calls for help, not because we expect reward, but because it is the right thing to do. We survive by surviving together. That is the promise of Earth." Jaren nodded, eyes wide. "I want to be like that when I grow up." "You already are," the soldier said. "By learning, you already carry the spirit of humans in your heart." Even as life returned to Vera 9, the galaxy itself began to change. Traders who had previously avoided the system now stopped to offer supplies. Nearby colonies sent delegations to learn from the survivors. The story of the Terran fleet's arrival spread quickly, carried by sensors, messages, and whispers across the stars. Some empires who had ignored the initial SOS now reconsidered their policies. Diplomats and officials realized that humanity did not act for convenience or reward. Humans acted because they understood duty, responsibility, and the value of life. And in every corner of the galaxy, the legend of the Deathworlders, the humans who answered cries for help with courage, skill, and unyielding will, grew stronger. One evening, Governor Alira stood atop a hill overlooking the colony. The twin suns of Vera 9 were setting, casting long shadows across fields and shelters. Behind her, the Terran Marines gathered, preparing for departure. Their mission had been completed. She turned to Admiral Reyes, who had come to oversee the withdrawal. "Will you leave now?" she asked. Reyes looked out at the horizon, thoughtful. "Yes, we cannot remain forever. Our role is to protect, not to occupy. But know this, we will return if needed. That is our promise, and the galaxy will know that an SOS to Earth is never ignored." Alira nodded, understanding the weight of the words. "Then I will tell my people to be ready and to remember your teachings. We will survive. We will thrive, and we will honor your help. Good, Reyes said. That is all we ask. The Marines began to board their ships, followed by engineers and pilots. Children waved, adults cheered, and the colonists felt a mixture of gratitude and awe. Though the humans would leave, their presence had left an indelible mark, not only on the colony but on the hearts of everyone who had witnessed their courage. As the Terran fleet climbed into space, Phaera 9 looked small beneath them, fragile yet alive. Yet even from orbit, it was clear that the colony would endure. Humanity had not simply fought the raiders. They had taught the colonists to face any challenge with courage, creativity, and resilience, and in the process, the galaxy learned a truth it could not ignore. Humans are not defined by the size of their fleets or the power of their weapons. They are defined by their will, their heart, and their promise to answer those in need. Weeks later, life on Phaera 9 continued to improve. Crops flourished, homes were rebuilt stronger than before, and schools reopened. Colonists told their children the story of the humans who came from the stars, teaching them about courage, honor, and the value of keeping promises. Governor Elira often walked among her people, seeing firsthand the lessons take root. She watched a farmer repair his windmill with new techniques learned from Terran engineers. She saw young children practicing drills taught by Marines. She smiled, knowing that the future of Phaera 9 was brighter than it had ever been. Some nights she would gaze at the stars, imagining the humans traveling home, continuing their mission across the galaxy. She thought of Admiral Reyes and his crew, disciplined and proud yet humble, and she understood what it truly meant when humans answered an SOS. They did not act lightly. They acted with all their skill, heart, and determination. The raiders had been defeated, the colony had been saved, and a bond had been forged between two worlds. But the story of Earth's Deathworlders was not just about victory. It was about a promise written across the stars, that when someone cries for help, they will not stand alone. That promise would echo through generations of Phaera 9. It would echo across the stars to other worlds in need, and it would echo back to Earth, reminding humanity of its duty, its strength, and its honor. Because the galaxy had learned something that night, the humans who had come to Phaera 9 were not just warriors. They were protectors, teachers, and guardians. They carried the spirit of a world that had endured countless hardships and emerged stronger every time. And wherever that spirit went, hope followed. The Terran fleet disappeared into the depths of space, leaving Phaera 9 under the care of its own people, now prepared to survive anything. The colony had witnessed the full measure of humanity's courage, and the story of that night would never be forgotten. In the sky above, faint trails of the departing ships slowly faded, but the promise remained, a promise written in stars, a promise that humanity kept always, and the settlers of Phaera 9 knew deep in their hearts that when the galaxy called, Earth would answer.